Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody, and welcome to, the show where we take your popular opinion and turn it on its ugly head with a little logic. I am your host, The Insider. Now, I know you're new to the channel because, so am I, so
Hi.
blah blah, please like and subscribe, you get the point. Today we're going to go do a deep dive into the polarizing moneylender and whoremonger of Game of Thrones, your favorite character, JK, Littlefinger, or Sir Petyr Baelish for the layman. Littlefinger is known as a cunning man who came from humble beginnings and manipulated his way to the great game through treachery and betrayal. If he had to describe himself, he'd probably say,
I'm an agent of chaos.
Now, if you haven't seen the show by now, be prepared to be spoiled more rotten than 10-day-old milk because the insider leaves no stone unturned. Now, if you were paying any attention at all to the buzz surrounding Littlefinger's final scene and season 7 in general, you know that there is an ass load of controversy surrounding his final moves. In fact, most go so far as to say that the showrunners, Dan and Dave, or Dumb and Dumber, didn't know what to do with him and just killed him off to get him out of the way. Now, if you'd like to make that case for Varys, I'm not going to fight you. But if you're trying to make it for Littlefinger, well, actually, he had a plan the entire time. Allow me to enter your mind and prove it to you. Now, before we get started, there are two verified things that we need to accept. Number one, in the show, fostering Sweet Robin, or Robert Arryn, the Lord of the Vale, it means next to nothing. For the book readers, it's a huge plot point, but it doesn't seem to really matter in the show. Secondly,
Trust me. And when I say trust me, I mean I really need you to believe me right now. This is real talk.
Littlefinger made a mistake with Ramsay. He simply didn't know him and left Sansa thinking Ramsay was no threat.
I've heard very little about you, which makes you quite a rare thing as lords go.
This has been confirmed by the showrunner, so I'm just going to go with it, whether it makes sense for Littlefinger or not. So sit back and pop yourself a cold one, because we're starting all the way back before season 1.
Shall we begin?
Now, believe it or not, Littlefinger was already making moves as a little kid. What was his first move? Well, he befriended Lysa and Catelyn. Understand that almost none of this would have happened if he wasn't friends with Lysa and Cat, and I'm going to explain that right now. Okay, show of hands. Who knows how Littlefinger got his job as Master of Coin? Okay, anybody who said that Jon Arryn gave him the job was very correct. Why did Jon Arryn give him the job? Because Lysa asked him to. That friendship's already coming through. So now he basically had the ability to help Robert bankrupt the kingdom under everybody's nose. By the beginning of the show, everybody is in the debt of either Tywin Lannister, Littlefinger, or the Iron Bank. And that much power in one person's or a few people's hands can be catastrophic, as I'm sure you're probably aware of. Fast forward another 20 years later, and he orders Lysa to kill Jon Arryn by putting Tears of Lys in his wine. Now, the result of this, straight up, is that Ned has to become the king's hand, or at least he knows that Robert will go ask Ned to become the hand of the king. Why? Because Robert's got the biggest chubby for Ned. It makes absolutely no sense for him to even consider anybody else. I mean, who's it going to be, Stannis? Doubt it. In any case, Lysa is now single as a Pringle and ready to mingle with Littlefinger, that is, because she listens to everything that he says. And the lordship of the Vale belongs to, you guessed it, Littlefinger, because he controls Lysa, and Lysa is now regent over the Vale. He has Lysa send the letter to Catelyn Stark saying that the Lannisters were responsible for Jon Arryn's murder. Ned has to go to King's Landing to protect his friend because the letter says that Robert's in danger. And now he can manipulate Ned as the hand of the king. And it gives Lysa an excuse for not joining the war effort. Understand this now. Had the Vale joined the North in the war effort, it probably wouldn't have lasted very long. Why? Because at first the Lannisters were fighting by themselves. Now when the Tyrells got involved, then it got a little bit murkier as to whether they would have won or not. But in reality, the Northerners and the Vale could have crushed the Lannisters. How very unfortunate that never came to pass. Well, he starts the War of the Five Kings, essentially, because he lies and says that Tyrion owned the dagger. Which, of course, results in Mrs. wishes she was Lady Stoneheart kidnapping Tyrion. And this essentially starts the War of the Five Kings because Tywin sends Jaime out after Jaime says that they have Tyrion. The Starks start to mistrust the Lannisters for next to no reason. First of all, they didn't know that Bran was pushed out of the window by them. They just suspected. So everything that they have against the Lannisters up until this point, or pretty much up until the point where Joffrey cuts off Ned's head, is conjecture. And if you'd like to bring up when Sansa sends the letter to Robb, to be perfectly honest, Robb didn't know that Ned hadn't committed treason. He just goes on his own gut feeling, more or less. In any case, through Cat, Ned will trust Littlefinger more. Now, I'm telling you, these relationships with Lysa and Cat are just going to keep on coming up. And it's very important that Ned trusts Littlefinger because if you'll recall this first scene from the small council.
We are all praying for Prince Joffrey's full recovery.
Shame you didn't say prayer for the butcher's son. Renly, you looking well?
Perhaps you chose the wrong man to duel with.
You were a young man.
And you served another king.
And you can tell he does not trust anybody. Except maybe Renly, but I mean, does he really count? No, I don't think he counts. But slowly and slowly, he starts to trust Littlefinger. Littlefinger then meets up with Varys in the throne room and says, yo, I know where your mama stay at. And then Varys goes ahead and comes back at him and says, whoa, slow your roll, mofo. I got the codes to the nukes too. What happens as a result? Well, Varys ignores his actions and his blatant lies, including the lies that he's telling to the Starks, even though with the simple word to the queen, he could end Littlefinger. But Littlefinger could end him too, then that ruins the game. Next off, he leads Ned on his wild murder mystery goose chase for Jon Arryn. It increases Ned's trust in Littlefinger. It decreases Ned's trust in Varys and the Lannisters. And how does this happen? Well, remember that scene where they're walking in the garden? All the scenes in the garden. South Park definitely got it right. In the scene that they were in the garden walking together, Littlefinger points out all of the spies from the Queen, Varys, and his own. So by being honest about his dishonesty, a guy like Ned is going to believe that he's being genuine, and in reality, he's just doing another play. We're led to Ned's injury and Jory's death. Why? Well, if you'll recall, Littlefinger is the guy who told Ned to tread softly in King's Landing. Now, Ned's rolling with 4 guards, while Jaime Lannister is rolling deep like a boss and completely overwhelms him. Now, just a side note, Ned was about to leave King's Landing in the rear view after his argument with Robert. He stopped caring about the murder mystery and all of that. He was already sending Sansa and them away. So we can safely conclude that he was not interested in going to see the armorer's apprentice or anything. So what does that do? Well, it kept Ned in King's Landing just long enough for him to be injured, learn the truth about the Lannisters, and for some reason tell them. Next off, he suggests that Tywin ordered the Mountain to attack the Riverlands with only one eyewitness account. Now, even if Cat took Tyrion and it didn't start the war, Ned summoning Tywin Lannister to King's Landing for punishment for the Mountain's crimes would effectively have started the war by itself. So you'll notice with Littlefinger that he does a lot of what's called hedging your bets. He will invest in lots and lots of different ideas, and whichever one grows, he will go with. In fact, he schemes a lot like George R.R. Martin writes. He says he's a gardener, and he just plants the seeds of plots, and some grow and some don't grow. This is a bit of conjecture, but he attempts to join Ned in his coup attempt, or advise him on how to proceed with the Lannisters. Now, I don't believe this was manipulation, and it doesn't seem that way through any type of logic. He was very genuine in this instance until Ned wouldn't give up on Stannis.
No. I won't do it.
So it will be Stannis and war.
There is no other choice. He is the heir.
Once that happened, and by the way, Stannis is a very big deal for Littlefinger. He's going to ban brothels. Littlefinger can't have that. That's most of his money. So Littlefinger has to call an audible and turn on Ned by pretending to buy him the support of the Gold Cloaks. Now, consider up until this point, Littlefinger's never been seen on screen talking to a Lannister, dealing with a Lannister, anything. So it's safe to almost assume that at this point he went straight from talking to Ned to talking to the Queen and making his power play. So next he betrays Ned. Good old dead Ned with no head. He gains the trust and favor of the Lannisters. He gets Ned out of the way. He gets Harrenhal for Janos. He remains allies with the family that has the most power because it was the Baratheons, but now it's basically the Lannisters. And he gains Joffrey's trust, which will be important later. And on top of all of that, he was able to prevent Stannis from rising to the Iron Throne. If he had helped Ned, chances are Stannis would have become king. In fact, almost assuredly. So next he has Ned executed. And this happens in both the book and show. I know it's a lot more obvious in the book, but all I really need to say is pay attention to everybody who moves the second Joffrey said,
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
And you'll know immediately. Everybody who works under Littlefinger moved immediately, and everybody else tried to get Joffrey to stop. In any case, he's opened up an opportunity with Catelyn. He's now cut off loose ends with Ned because he tried to help him and give him information. Ned's an honorable guy. If he had said, Petyr tried to conspire with me, then he would have been on the chopping block too. He continues to build his Joffrey relationship. And he guarantees that even if the North were to succeed, I mean, who would even be able to say anything bad about Littlefinger? What's Sansa going to say? Yeah, he tried to help me at a couple of points. There's really nothing beyond that. And that's the end of Littlefinger's involvement in Season 1. This is where he laid out a lot of his plans, so it's a lot more dense than the rest of the videos are going to be. We're going to break this down into parts. In the next episode, we are going to get into how he was moving around with his jetpack and orchestrating the entirety of the War of the Five Kings, of course, after starting the War of the Five Kings. The whole point is to prove that it was his plan from the very beginning, so please try and bear with me. Wow, that was a mouthful. If you made it this far, you are a trooper and you deserve a slap in the pooper. My goodness. Hopefully you liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me what I can do better and so I can ignore you. No, I'm kidding. I'll totally take it to heart. But until next time, this is The Insider signing off. Bye!